Part of the overall charm of Fleabag is watching a charming, affable woman struggle to strike a balance between genuine self-improvement and indulgence of her worst impulses, a struggle the majority of us are well acquainted with, and one that is often exacerbated by extreme grief and emotional duress. Fleabag is no exception to this trend, but while she does show considerable improvement throughout the show's run, there is exactly one vice she cannot and is never able to bring herself to surrender: her desire to steal her godmother's prized golden sculpture. The repeated theft, relinquishment, and reclaimment of the sculpture is among the funniest recurring gags in the show, but the sculpture in of itself is never reduced to a mere punchline, with it remaining a consistent presence from the first to last episode and remaining a constant plot device. Despite finding herself inexplicably drawn to the sculpture, Fleabag is also continuously attempting to rid herself of it, but regardless of what she does, the statue always, without fail, winds up back in her possession, making it as simple as crucial to Fleabag as the fox is to the hot priest of Season 2. So, without further ado, let's discuss its greater overall meaning. The sculpture is first introduced to us in Episode 1 of Season 1, alongside Fleabag's godmother, who is almost immediately presented to the audience as an artist, and in Fleabag's own words, a cunt. However, we as the audience also receive an excellent piece of foreshadowing in regards to how the godmother ought to be perceived by us, with her self-portrait being a black, gaping void. The tone of this first conversation remains constant throughout every conversation Fleabag and the godmother share, dripping with disdain, condescension, and passive-aggressive barbs. And yet, amidst this verbal sparring, Fleabag finds herself drawn to a headless, limbless, gold replication of a woman's bust. Fleabag almost immediately makes a joke about the dehumanizing nature of the piece, in the midst of the godmother attempting to spin its existence into a more profound commentary, something regarding how women must navigate the world through their innate femininity rather than through their strength, with her posing the argument that this femininity is in fact their most valuable quality. In the same breath, she also remarks on how the sculpture is an incredibly valuable piece, which, for Fleabag, who is struggling to keep her small cafe afloat, makes it all too openly tempting a mart. However, although the audience may initially be led to believe that Fleabag steals the statue for strictly financial purposes, there's a tenderness with which she handles it that insinuates something much deeper. As the season progresses, we learn that Fleabag often feels insecurity about her bust size, and is actually initially drawn to the statue due to its buxom figure. While it would be easy to reduce Fleabag's insecurity as her merely yearning for a quality that she believes would better enhance her sexuality, the thing that she treats as and believes to be the basis of her worth, Fleabag even further elaborates that her mother and sister actually shared this same impressive chest. Although chest size is traditionally linked to sexuality, we also often associate the size of the chest, particularly larger chests, with maternal warmth, extroversion, and playfulness. Qualities Fleabag's mother flawlessly embodied, but that her daughters struggle to imitate in their day-to-day lives. Claire may bear the physical resemblance, but struggles to implement the spontaneity and free-spiritedness their mother bore in her day-to-day life. Whereas Fleabag is often told she harbors all of her mother's worst qualities with none of her lovable ones. So the initial theft is motivated in part by a yearning for both, a physical quality that, in Fleabag's eyes, enhances sexuality on account of her reducing her worth to her sexuality, and personal qualities she feels she cannot possess. Ironically, in a later episode, the statue is explicitly revealed to be a representation of her mother, and it's under this lens that all other instances of its theft must be analyzed. However, while Fleabag has fond qualities associated with these physical features, it's highly unlikely her godmother constructed the bust with a similar affection. There's horrifically cruel irony in that this image of Fleabag's mother, a woman that died of breast cancer, has been reduced to her chest and chest alone. There is no head, no face, nothing that could potentially insinuate personhood or identity, just an isolated focus on her body, which is then intended to be openly put on display. The qualities that her family most cherished within her good humor, her affectionate nature, are indiscernible, with the godmother reducing a woman that adored her to a helpless object devoid of personality or agency. But there is even further cruelty in the fact that this sculpture was originally intended to feature in her sexhibition, watching out as the godmother reveled over the relationship that she forged with her cherished husband. In this context, this image of Fleabag's mother was crafted to be reduced to an ornamental figurehead that, in the context of their newly forged lives, amounted to little more than a decorative remnant that could be tucked away and stored at will. It's only Fleabag's theft that thwarts this initial plan, leading the godmother to construct a passive-aggressive replacement display entitled A Woman Robbed. But there is further irony in that between them, the godmother is the true thief. Fleabag's mother is a woman robbed of agency, personhood, and memorialization even in death, and the godmother harbors next to no remorse in regards to this. The crafting of the sculpture isn't even the first time the godmother desecrates Fleabag's mother's memory, with it simply being the cherry on top of years of disrespect. In Season 1, Episode 5 of Fleabag, Fleabag and Claire visit their father on the anniversary of their mother's death. With it being confirmed, the trio have a long-practiced annual ritual where they gather on this day and reminisce about the best aspects of the departed. While it can be assumed this ritual is one intended to be conducted between the three of them, in Episode 5, the godmother has decided to insert herself into it, and disrupts the three sorrows by acting in a dismissive and borderline celebratory fashion throughout the entirety of the afternoon. But amidst the long list of grave offenses the Godmother commits during this day, the first and most noticeable is discarding a bouquet of freesias that Fleabag and Claire have brought to accompany the table setting. This rejection of the freesias is one of the saddest and subtlest cruelties the Godmother inflicts upon Fleabag and Claire. Not only is she depriving their mother's home of her favorite flowers on the anniversary of her passing, but she is explicitly rejecting flowers associated with friendship and trust. Deliberately leaving these flowers outside of the house means the Godmother is not just rejecting a cherished aspect of their mother's memory, she's rejecting the very notion of engaging in either concept with them. There's an even sharper barb in that the freesias aren't even for the Godmother to begin with. They're for their father. Because while there's an overwhelming amount of resentment between the Godmother, Fleabag and Claire appear to harbor an understanding of the fact that they can't facilitate anything deeper with her, and therefore any potential attempt to do so is frivolous. But with their father, the person this gift is meant for, there's still the potential of facilitating this deeper connection. Fleabag and Claire bringing their father freesias is their attempt to reconnect with him on a base level, and in part, make the home slightly more resemble the one they once shared. And in tossing the freesias, the Godmother explicitly rejects the probability of both occurring. Bear in mind this rejection when analyzing what I would argue is the statue's most important appearance, the scene in which Fleabag attempts to return it. At this point, Fleabag isn't aware of the fact the statue is meant to embody her mother. To her, it's a physical representation of an endless power struggle between her and the woman that has invaded and destroyed her former home. Although it's admittedly a small, petty victory, it's one that both Claire and Fleabag do find comfort in. And so in relinquishing it, Fleabag is extending the closest equivalent to a non-verbal olive branch that she can. The scene progresses smoothly, with the Godmother appearing to fondly caress Fleabag's cheek before making the revelation that she thinks it strange that of all her pieces, this is the one that Fleabag had the strongest fixation on, a piece of her mother, and makes a remark on how it's lovely to have her back in the house. Due to the fleeting, swift flash of sincerity we see on the Godmother's face when the statue is first unveiled, there are a staggering number of audience members that view this scene as legitimate reconciliation, when in reality, it's anything but. If the series were truly intended to indicate peace, the series wouldn't end with Fleabag stealing back the statue. But the first tell we as the audience receive that the Godmother's alleged gratitude is a sham is the motion she makes to gently caress Fleabag's cheek upon receiving it, purposely cradling the same cheek she earlier slapped her on to indicate that she is about to deliver a similarly devastating blow. The series takes great pains to establish this is an insincere gesture whenever the Godmother performs it, with its seeming tenderness typically contrasting a cutting jab coming next. And here, the jab is a petty reminder to Fleabag that she has stolen everything she ever considered to be home, even the image of it. Informing Fleabag the statue is meant to be reminiscent of her mother is not a crude attempt to bond in their shared fondness of her. It's a final victory cry, a cruel reminder that she, in her eyes, has won. This isn't the first time the Godmother attempts to erase an individual's memory by removing their face and/or head, with a fantastic example lying in the painting that she constructs of Fleabag and Claire during her wedding, with the painting depicting Claire's face, but only the back of Fleabag's head. Fleabag is repeatedly told that between the two, she is the one that best embodies the essence of her mother's soul. And while the Godmother may have been able to take her mother's position physically by wooing her widowed husband and assuming her spot as head of her household, she has never had the ability to embody her authenticity. And Fleabag, as somebody that bears these qualities the Godmother resents because she cannot have them, must, in her eyes, be defaced in a similar fashion. Yet thankfully for us, this victory ultimately turns out to be a sham, with Fleabag stealing the statue back once and for all during the series finale. This moment is more than reclamation of her mother's memory. It is coming to proper terms with her grief. It is the restoration of the love that she felt her death had deprived her of, and of the love that she has been in search for throughout the entirety of her journey. It's why the sculpture, regardless of whom she gives it to, is always returned to her in the end, because at the end of the day, Fleabag's grief is hers and hers alone, in all its beauty and misery, and once she reconciles with it and learns to hold it close, she no longer needs us to navigate the pain of day-to-day existence. There is this beautiful union in regaining it in that now Fleabag possesses her mother's body and spirit, and while she will always carry the pain of that loss with her, she can also find comfort in its memory. And here's an extra special thank you to our Patreons. What we do would not be possible without your support. If you would like to count yourself among them, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for your time and have a fabulous day.